How you guys doing? Andy Ruzicka here with Reel to Reel and STL TV with another local film and the local filmmaker who just released a new feature-length film. It's called Fountaine and the Vengeful Nun Who Wouldn't Die. James Dean, thanks for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, I'm going to let you introduce this film because it is a wild ride.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so it's a love letter to the 60s and 70s exploitation films. And I mean, if you want to be very specific, it's a nunsploitation, but most people have no idea what that means. So it's just it's a grindhouse film meets graphic novel with a bunch of bizarro characters. And there are some very heavy themes that play throughout, but you can take a lot away from it without ever really digging into that. And if you want to, it's there. You can also dig into the themes.
Can you talk about, there were a lot of visual effects in this film, physical, it took a lot of work, obviously, because it looked like you worked really hard on making this as realistic as you could.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we wanted to push to have as much practical effects as possible. I'm a huge fan of 80s gore, 80s horror films, genre movies in general. And the thing that 80s films had that, we don't have as much of today is the practical effects. And so I really pushed to have as much of it to be practical effects as possible. There were limitations, we had limitations with budget, and sometimes you have to use visual effects, or sometimes you have to composite things together. But I felt like we really did accomplish doing like 80% practical effects. And I think it shows.
So, full disclosure to our audience, this is a mature movie, strong sexual content, violence, language. Just be sure that you're of age to watch this film.
Definitely, yeah.
So, I would say Tarantino, as you mentioned, is he one of your favorite directors, or maybe for this film in particular, was Kill Bill a very strong influence?
So initially it was, but we're going back to like the short film, which we made 3 years ago, which was like a prequel to this. And interesting enough, what I did was I actually started looking at a lot of Tarantino's favorites. So I went back to the 70s and 60s, Lady Snowblood, which is an amazing, and it's really an exploitation film. They Call Her One Eye, which is also called Thriller, is also another exploitation film. A lot of these you probably aren't going to be familiar with because they're not, like, the mass audience doesn't necessarily watch these, but tons of movies from the 60s and 70s influenced me. Sex and Fury, just a lot of different movies from that era, and those are the same movies that actually influenced him. So I could see how there would be that correlation, that he would be an influence. I think to a certain extent, yeah. But I love going back to the material that he pulled from and taking a look at it also, because I see something different than he would see, just like you would see something different. Everyone has unique perspective on things. So when you present that, or when you try to use it again in some fashion, it's going to look different. It's going to feel different. And when you don't have a $10 million budget, it's also going to look and feel a little different as well.
Was there any scene or thing about the movie that you were really proud of? Like, is there a scene that stood out to your mind that?
So I love that. My favorite scene is probably the torture scene towards the 3/4 mark. It's just so grimy and gross, and it makes you feel a little disgusting. We had Nazis in the film, obviously not real Nazis, but and so I saved the worst deaths, I think, for them, because come on, they're Nazis. I mean, so I really loved that scene, how it came together. And I also loved a bar scene that we had earlier in the film, where there was just a lot of people that ended up dying in the bar scene. And it took so much work to pull those off. Like the bar sequence was probably 5 minutes in length, maybe four minutes of the movie. And we spent 2 Sundays shooting it. So we spent 16 to 18 hours shooting it. And we spent another, 15 hours doing the stunt choreography and rehearsing it and pre-shooting it. And it's just so much work to what comes out to be 3 or 4 minutes in the movie, But I think those 2 scenes in particular are what came out the best. Yeah, definitely.
Gotcha. So yeah. This one is the one, the Fountaine and the Vengeful Nun Who Wouldn't Die. It's available on Amazon and Tubi, right?
Yeah. It's a, you know, if you want to check it out for free, it's playing on Tubi with commercials. And then if you want to rent it or buy a digital copy, it's on Amazon. And we'll have physical media here probably the second week of March. The order's already in and they've already sent me a shipping date. It's just making sure everything comes in and I check it all out.
Is there any way people can follow you or follow the film? Do you have social media?
Yeah. On Twitter at maniac_nun. That's also a hashtag we use a lot. Hashtag maniac nun. That you can find me on Twitter at JamesD7004. On Facebook, we have Monster Kid Productions. And again, if you check out hashtag maniac nun, you'll find us. That's where we're at.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to the next one. And if you're of age, check out this one.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much to James Dean. Be sure you check out Fountaine and the Vengeful Nun Who Wouldn't Die. But be sure and follow us, though, on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. For STL TV, I'm Andy Ruzicka.